I mean, I'm not a confrontational person. I don't really extend myself. I think this type of thing is very uncomfortable. All this attention and limelight is very uncomfortable. And I would prefer without it. I didn't want any type of attention or praise, and I still don't. Mm-hmm. The guilt I would have felt if someone did get hurt, if he did do what he was threatening to do, would never be able to live with myself. And I'll take 1 million court appearances and people calling me names and people hating me just to keep one of those people from getting hurt or killed.
Ladies and gentlemen, now it's Too Late with Alan Mosley.
Yeah.
I wanted to say and so bad.
Yeah, I don't know why you would want to do that, because I would just be mad, you know? Like, why do you want that? Why do you want that for us? Alright. Guys, welcome back for another episode of It's Too Late. I am your host, Alan Mosley, joined as always by the #1 producer in late night. It's Dave Wilimowski. Dave! Hey, how you doing, buddy?
Hi, guys. I'm doing good. I'm working more. It seems to be picking up a little bit. I think they're just getting ready for Christmas, but I've been working a lot, a little tired, but excited to be here. How you doing?
Yeah, a little embarrassing to be wearing that hat after last week, but I mean, I don't know.
It was a good game. Everybody enjoyed it. Yeah.
You say that every year
Even
when the
I
Bills get
enjoyed it.
eliminated. It was a good game. Better luck next year. You're literally the meme of, you're wearing the mask of the smiley face saying better luck next year, but you can see the tears streaming.
Right.
Oh my God, that cold open, Daniel Penny. What a story. Like, do you think you could have done what he did, Dave? Do you think you could have choked that guy out?
I mean, if to save all those people.
Oh, he saved some people?
Oh.
Wow. What? Yeah, that makes it even better. Neat.
Yeah.
Oh, and the assistant prosecutor in the case. Did you check out this lady? Daphne Yoren from Israel.
Oh.
This lady once got a thug off on a light sentence after he murdered an 87-year-old man at an ATM in what she described as restorative justice.
Wow.
And yet she wanted to throw the book at Daniel Penny. But in a stunning turn of events, a penny managed to escape a Jew. Wow. One really aggressive laugher in the audience right there. Oh my God. And the other story this week, oh man, social media has been buzzing with opinions about the assassination of the United Health CEO, Brian Thompson, at the hands of one Luigi Mangione. Do we have a picture of Luigi?
Oh, I found one. Yeah, here.
Wow.
Oh.
That's quite the candid shot, isn't it?
Yeah.
Jesus Christ. Now, I hate to get political, but, get your tinfoil hat out for just a second. Now, This guy who is supposedly like a genius level IQ goes into New York where there's cameras everywhere, shoots this guy on the sidewalk with a ghost gun with a suppressor, and then he takes his mask off and he winds up going to a McDonald's where he's allegedly identified by the cashier, who just so happened to think, oh, that's the guy that looks exactly like the guy from the shooting. And he just so happens to have all the hard evidence literally on his person when the police come to get him. And this all just so happens to go down when there's a renewed push for cracking down on ghost guns and 3D printing, while a suppressor bill is actually working its way through Congress as we speak.
Huh.
What a huge coincidence all that is.
It really is.
In other news, ladies and gentlemen, happy holidays from our friends at the Federal Bureau of Investigation.
Oh, well, that's sweet of them.
Yeah, we need an awe button. God damn it.
Yeah.
We gotta get one. Guys, let me tell you about tonight's sponsor, which is Fox & Sons Coffee, which you can find at foxandsons.com. Shipping's always free on orders over $40. Wow. If you use code ITL, you get 18% off orders of $30 or more. You can get them at their website, which is foxandsons.com. I think if you spend $40 or more and buy a gift card, you also get a suppressor.
Oh, well, that's nice.
Might have to check the laws in the state of Michigan. I don't.
Yeah. And probably where you're at.
Yeah. Where I'm at, dude. We have roadside stands. What are you talking about?
Well, I mean the
Oh, okay. So that's Fox & Sons Coffee, which you can find at foxandsons.com. Use promo code ITL. Guys, we're going to be back with the meme of the week and the viewer mail right after this commercial break.
Enjoy.
Welcome back to the show, everybody. Hey, Dave.
Yes, Alan.
What time is it?
It's time for meme of the week. What? What?
You don't remember that part of the Bible? The $6 shrimp? You don't remember that? All right. But we do have a bonus meme. Check out the bonus meme.
Call anonymous. You call anonymously. They know me. They know my voice. They'll know me. Please, you got to do it for me. I'm
That's me and Dave right there.
You gotta call.
You gotta know. You gotta call. They know my voice. You gotta call. Oh man. How are we doing on time? Now, please remember the guest segment is 51 minutes long.
Oh, I mean, we should probably just get moving then, right to the segment. It's pretty late.
Oh, well, in that case.
Uh-oh. Oh. Favorite.
Yeah, this actually is my favorite. But I just see the look of horror in my monitor every time. Come on in, stranger. How are you doing?
I'm doing all right. Pretty cold out there.
What? Santa's hat isn't blue, it's red. What the hell is that?
Oh, I was just cheering on my favorite team, you know?
Your favorite team? Your favorite team's the Bills?
Yeah.
Wow. You know why they say you get such great views when you see the Bills at their stadium?
No, why do they say that?
Because there's no pesky Super Bowl banners to block your view. It's a full bar tonight. That's amazing. I didn't realize everyone could hear me over the band. Yeah. All right. Anyway. Yeah, okay. Let's answer some viewer mail. All right, our first question comes from Andrew Avery, who writes, Dear Alan and Dave, if bears live in bear dens, do gars live in gar dens? No, Andrew, they live in the water because they're fish. Yeah, so they can't go into a den; they'll die. So, yeah,
that should help.
Much like being on this show, you just suffocate under the pressure, you know. Yeah, that monthly membership thing isn't going so good.
No. Oh.
No, I talked to a couple of people about like basically launching it all over again after January 1st, but at this point, we're now going to have to start getting like 5 new signups literally every single week, or it's over.
Yeah.
And you guys aren't going to want to see what happens to me when it's over. Like, you know. All right. All right. Ryan Seifert writes, yeah. Dear Alan and Dave, does that camera angle actually capture a
little bit?
Does I should move it over.
Almost.
I should move it over a little bit.
Yeah. We'll get
you
that
can
later.
see the day. We're in the 280s. It's getting exciting. We're into the 200s. All right. Ryan Seifert writes, Dear Alan and Dave, if slavery was legal today, would you own any slaves? I actually already answered Ryan's question on social media where I said you should ask, like, when you have a question, you should read it out loud to yourself at home before you send it in and ask yourself, is this like if I were at Leno or Letterman, would I ask this question? You know?
I think he might.
Plus, slaves are expensive.
Yeah, I don't have
Jesus. Yeah. You know, I just have to invite people to my closet. I can't purchase them. Oh, did I tell you that there's a new waitress at Poncho's?
Oh, you mentioned it.
All right. I'll tell you about it later.
Right.
Justin writes, "Dear Alan and Dave, do you wrap presents or just put them in a bag, or do you just give them naked without any packaging at all?" Dave,
Wow.
are you big present wrapper? Or are you a bag guy?
Am I a bagger? No.
You're the bag man.
I don't know. I don't like bags. They're too expensive. You don't get enough to reuse. I'm pretty proficient at wrapping, so I'll wrap. Plus, I don't have that much to do. Mary does most of it.
Oh, okay. So does Mary do the wrapping, or does Mary use bags?
A little bit of both. Mostly wrapping for the kids. Maybe for family and friends. She'll do a gift bag or something pretty.
I kind of have the opinion, like I'm not against bags. I kind of have the opinion that there's certain types of products that go in bags and certain types of products that you wrap, because wrapped presents are boxes. If it's a box, you wrap it. If you if you have like a cardboard box from Amazon and you put it in a bag, you're actually subhuman filth.
Wow.
Yeah.
I mean,
I'll actually take it and throw it in your face. Yeah. Yeah. I hope it's like lead or something. It'll hurt. So you'll remember.
Tungsten.
But if it's like, like if you get somebody like, some kind of like tasty treat that comes in a bag or something, then you
some
put that in a
lotions or
bag.
something.
Yeah, you put it in put it in a little bag. So there you go. All right. I don't do either of those things because I don't give nor receive presents.
It simplifies things.
Yeah.
Minimalist.
We just do lottery tickets. We just
Here you go. Yeah.
That's what we do. Yeah. Boy, I won't bet on the Bills again. I'll be goddamned if I do that.
Oh.
Let's see. Giggles writes, "Dear Alan and Dave, what type of holiday bonus structure do you as a podcaster get from your sponsors?" Is Steve here? Is Steve on tonight? Steve!
I've seen him.
I don't know. Because they've got gift cards now. I feel like we should be getting a cut of the gift cards. Everybody go to foxandsons.com right now. Get yourself like a $50 gift card and put in the comments, Alan sends his regards.
Oh.
I don't know. Maybe that's too ominous. I don't know.
Yeah, it is a little ominous.
Well, I mean, regards are supposed to be a good thing.
Yeah.
Like warm regards, Alan.
Plus, they're buying a gift card. That's a good thing. It's not.
Yeah. See,
like
it's him that
pulling a weapon.
misinterpreted the message, not me for sending it. Yeah. Mary Lynn Wilimowski writes, "Dear Alan and Dave."
Oh. Uh-oh.
"How many snowmen have you built in your lifetime?" Mary, I live in God's country, which is the South. So the answer is 0. I have built 0 snowmen in my house. Dave, how many snowmen do you think you've built?
You should build a little one on the hood of your car sometime when you get that inch or two. No, I couldn't count, man. I'm a county boy up here in the Great White North, so I've made literally probably hundreds of snowmen.
Wow. Can you think of a particularly huge snowman that you've ever built, like a really, really big one?
I mean, I assume because I like to overdo things, so I'm sure I built some big boys.
Yeah. Can you think of one in particular? Maybe one with a significant other, perhaps, that is a very treasured memory for that person?
I don't know. It's a blur. Like I said, a lot of snowmen.
Okay. Mary, hope this helps. Codain writes, "Dear Alan and Dave, given the best conditions, how far do you think you could toss a midget?"
Oh.
Okay, so first of all, Codain was also asking Tom Woods, but the guest segment was 24 hours ago. So I'm sorry I didn't ask Tom Woods how far he can throw a midget.
That would have been a good one.
But, when you say best conditions, are you talking about like a sunny day with no wind, or are you talking about like a light midget? Because they're usually burly folk.
They're dense.
They're a bit stocky. Yeah, they're dense. Yeah. They wouldn't float.
No.
No. Have you built a snowman bigger than a midget?
Oh yeah.
Okay. All right. I have not. But
All right.
So, all right. Codain, why don't you take a couple of weeks off from viewer mail? Just maybe find yourself and think about it.
Well, introspection.
Jonathan Carranza writes, Dear Alan and Dave, what is your favorite weapon? Oh, sarcasm.
Oh.
Yeah.
Yes.
And not letting anyone get too close and not sharing my feelings.
Oh, no, never.
Yeah, those are easily top 3 my most powerful weapons. What about you, Dave?
I guess guns, they're really effective. But I mean,
Yeah.
if we're not using guns, I like nunchucks. I've always liked nunchucks. They just look cool.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, but you're just gonna, like with the Red Rider, you put your eye out. With the nunchucks, you put your nose out.
Yeah, well, you bonk yourselves when you're learning.
Yeah,
you good bonks. Yeah.
Is nunchucks one of those things where it's like, how do you learn? It's like, you remember how I said like with pole vaulting? It's like, how do you learn to pole vault? Do you just take off one day? Like, yeah, here we go.
No, actually, when I was younger, I had padded ones got from the fireworks shop down the street. So it's like, then you can really go to town and make a few mistakes.
At the fireworks shop.
Oh, that's big around here. Fireworks and karate supplies. Yeah. There's like 3 of them in like town. You don't have those? Fireworks and karate supplies? It's the best thing.
Karate supplies? You need supplies?
Yeah, they'll have all the belts and the uniforms and then all the weapons.
Karate supplies is just steroids. Is that what you're talking about? You talking about
the throwing stars?
Sub-ethical pharmaceuticals? Stars. Is it? Okay, all right. Throwing stars, Jesus.
Butterfly knife? Yeah.
Gary writes, Dear Alan and Dave, you are miraculously granted a position on the new Department of Government Efficiency, and you can pick one of these things to eliminate. Which one do you pick? Department of Education, Federal Reserve, IRS, Department of Homeland Security. So if you've ever watched this show before, because I've done whole episodes where I've said that actually the Department of Education has to go first, because otherwise you're just going to get them all back. Yeah. See, that's the thing is that everyone always likes to wax philosophical about what they would cut if they could. But then the question should always be like, okay, but then when your term is up and the next people are voted in, what's going to stop those people from just reinstituting everything you cut? And my answer always is that, well, that's why I killed as many people as I could.
Oh. That'll have a little staying power. Yeah.
Yeah. Like I would sign an executive order to end the Department of Education. And then we would eliminate them as he put
the whole department.
Yeah. Yeah. Mm-hmm. Yeah. Right. And finally this evening, Brooke Atkinson writes, Dear Alan and Dave, what is the best multiplayer game you played prior to 2005?
Where was I? I don't even know.
StarCraft.
Oh. Okay.
Yeah.
2005.
That's how old I am. StarCraft.
Oh, because I was about to say like Tecmo Super Bowl, but that's way back.
I mean that is before 2005. Yeah.
Yeah. That's probably the best. But then I was thinking of Command and Conquer. I used to like that a lot. I just play with my cousin though.
GoldenEye in Perfect Dark on the N64. Yeah.
See, I must have missed that whole thing. I've never played that game.
Which one? GoldenEye or Perfect Dark? Both.
GoldenEye.
Yeah.
I've never heard of the other one.
Yeah. Well, that's because you're like a boomer to me.
Yeah, I think I was doing it was a part of my life where I wasn't playing video games.
Yeah. You're like this plus 6 years. So
doing all right.
Yeah. I mean, yeah, you look good. Yeah,
thanks.
You look good. Yeah. Guys, we're going to be back with tonight's guest, Tom Woods, right after this commercial break.
I live in a low-income housing environment that goes by the government name of Section 8. Me and a group of my allies control certain areas of this section in order to run our illegitimate business. We possess unregistered firearms, stolen vehicles, mind-altering inhibitors, and only use cash for financial purchases. If anyone would like to settle unfinished altercations, I will be more than happy to release my address. I would like to warn you, I am a very dangerous person, and I regularly disobey the law.
Welcome back to the show, everybody. Our guest this evening he's a lot of things. He's a New York Times bestseller. He is the Hayek Lifetime Achievement Award winner, which I've always thought was a little bit weird because I feel like you get a Lifetime Achievement Award and then your next achievement is the grave. But hopefully that is not the case. He's also obviously the host of one of the biggest podcasts out there, The Tom Woods Show, which you can find at tomwoods.com. Also happy to report he is got a clean bill of health because the old man has emerged from his colonoscopy. Yeah. Tom Woods, welcome back to the show.
Alan, always a pleasure. Thank you.
Well, you know, I believe I said to you the first time we got together, which was almost 8 years ago now, that because you were calling yourself Old Man Woods all the way back then, and I rebuked you. I said, for one, I don't know why you're calling yourself old man. It's spry young man, and not only that, but now I think if you're announcing your colonoscopies, you have in fact achieved the status of Old Man Woods. So congratulations.
Well, it's my thank you. I kind of imagined that as being just for my Facebook friends, but I guess the cat is out of the bag.
Well, speaking of that, another kind of milestone that I know that you've shared recently is because you have a full house. You have 5 young ladies that are your daughters, but they're not just 5 young ladies anymore. They're becoming 5 young women after all the years that have gone by. And with this being one of our Christmas episodes, I thought I would start off there, just asking you. If you have any big Christmas traditions in the Woods house, and also how has Christmas sort of been evolving now that you have several young adults walking around as opposed to young kids?
Well, it makes Christmas morning a little bit different because you know we'd all rather sleep a little bit than be up at the crack of dawn. But yeah, I mean, I have 3 adult children now, and 2 of them live on their own. And the third one is in a culinary program, but the program is near our house, so she's staying with us while she does that. But in terms of traditions, I mean, we primarily have silly ones. We have this. We wear same pajamas on Christmas Day with their family pajamas. You wake up in the morning, you open them up, put them on, or New Year's Christmas Eve, we put them all on. We're all matching. And advent calendars that we like, and visiting different, going and seeing Christmas lights. We live in a neighborhood that really goes all out in terms of decoration. So we because it's not ice cold around here, we can actually make a leisurely stroll without dying instantly. So we do that. But primarily, it's just, especially now that, as I say, I have kids who live on their own. The best part of Christmas is just having everybody at home again. And I have a daughter who turned 21 this year, so I actually interviewed her for my newsletter, not my email newsletter that a lot of people are familiar with, but I have a print newsletter that I send to members of supportinglisteners.com. And in that, I interviewed her about what it was like growing up in a nerd's household and, a world full of Mises and Austrian economics and stuff like that. And it was just the most heartwarming exchange imaginable. Everybody loved it. But as we contemplated in that conversation, the aging of the children, and they're starting to move away, she was saying it really feels to me like the end of an era. And that's very, very bittersweet for me, because on the one hand, I want to see them go out and have successes in the world and be fulfilled. And on the other, I have thoroughly enjoyed every minute of having them around, and so every time they come back and visit, it's like it's a real treat.
Well, that's great. I know. In fact, I have friends that have recently lived this scenario of having young kids become young adults and perhaps go off to school, and maybe they go off to school a little bit further away than they originally anticipated. And then there's inevitably that strain of the young people going out in the world, being confronted with new ideas and meeting new people, and suddenly they come home for the holidays and they've become different people. They've learned. I jokingly say they've learned things. It's more that they've learned different perspectives, and suddenly they're listening to professors and other young people, and they come home with a lot of crazy ideas that they didn't learn from mom and dad. But I guess by and large, you've been spared that, then, you would say.
Oh, for heaven's sake. Yeah. I don't have to worry about that at all. The kids have their heads screwed on right. And, I'm sure there are areas where we disagree, but nothing really earth shattering. And, they more or less trust their father. So when, issues come up on TV, sometimes they ask me what my opinion is. And I think whether or not they agree, they always find it to be, informed and reasonable. So I don't have to worry that they're going to go out into the world and come back hating us or at war with everything I cherish. It hasn't happened, and I just don't see it happening.
Well, this might be an interesting point to do a segue. I have a friend who's a little bit older gentleman, and he has two kids that have just become young adults as well. And to kind of make this a little segue into recent political news and Trump's election, that sort of thing, he didn't really discuss the election with his kids, but he raised his kids with a lot of the same, attitudes towards the state and government and localism and just healthy skepticism and things like that. And he always felt that his kids by and large shared the same general principles that he did. And in this most recent election, he asked them, you guys know I'm not going to go vote because I'm just not a big voting person. But if you guys go vote, that's fine. And you don't have to tell me if you do, and you don't have to tell me who you vote for. But if you wanted to tell me, we could talk about it. We're all adults here. And both of his kids told him that they were not going to vote for Donald Trump because Donald Trump's a criminal. And so that then obviously through process of elimination, he said, well, does that mean you voted for Kamala Harris? And both of them said yes. Both of these kids who grew up in a Ron Paul homeschool household, by the way, grew up to vote for Kamala Harris, not because they agreed with Kamala Harris, but because, quote, Trump was a criminal. And that's particularly shocking because this is a family from the state of Tennessee, which is a predominantly red state, and to be fair. And so it kind of left him wondering, well, look, I'm not a fan of Donald Trump, but I certainly would not have voted for Kamala Harris. And it's left him now scrambling, wondering, wow, where did they come up where was their thought process that led them to, I'm going to vote for Kamala Harris? Now, these are two young people that lived through COVID and missed their graduations and, were stuck at home and didn't have a lot of social time and were not fans of Joe Biden, but they both voted for Kamala Harris. What's your, have you gotten that impression from other young people? What's your impression of that?
I don't interact with young people, really. It's just my kids. And I have, a few of them are of voting age, and I didn't actually demand that they tell me, which candidate they were supporting, but I was able to more or less tell. And they weren't super excited this year, but
sure,
they could see where the primary evil was. So, there's that. I mean, mainly the main thing we talked about were the various ballot initiatives in Florida, because some of them were a little complicated. So we had conversations about that. And I admit that, yes, I voted, and I know there are libertarians who will condemn me for that. And I think that's dumb. And I'm done having that argument. I don't want to have that argument. It's a dumb argument. It's pointless. I just want to talk to normal people who don't obsess over meaningless nonsense. But yeah, I don't want to stand in judgment of somebody else's kids or whatever. But what I can say is that it is interesting to note that the younger people, it ended up skewing more Trump than I thought they would. That I thought the young people were all going to be voting blue. That's not something that's a recent phenomenon. The young people often vote for the left because they have no experience in real life. I mean, the left is all about theory. It's all about how things ought to be, and wishing for things that and thinking that desiring something makes it, that the mere desiring of it is enough to make it so. That if we crack some skulls, we can make anything happen. And, I can understand why a young person thinks, well, I wish the world weren't this way, and I wish people in other countries were richer. And so maybe we should do X and Y, not knowing, because they're too young to know, that we've done X and Y again and again and again and again and again and again. And it not only does it not help, it makes things worse every single time. But they don't know anything like that, so they think, I got a brand new idea. Everybody should listen to me because I'm 18 and I am full of interesting ideas. Very irritating.
Well, I think one of my favorite lines, speaking of, being condemned for political activity, I think one of my favorite lines from your friend, Michael Malice, was because I don't think Michael Malice has to defend his anarchist credentials from anyone. But he's also been quite clear in saying, it's if someone has to choose between the stomach flu and prostate cancer, it's absurd to say that you can't pick the lesser of two evils. That's ridiculous.
Right.
Yeah, that's just absurd. And so obviously the election happened. We have Donald Trump. He's the incumbent. He's coming in January. And there's been a lot of people that have said that, well, Trump is bad. Trump was president and he did X, Y, and Z, and I don't approve of these things. And therefore, since he's not my ideal candidate, then not only did I not support him, which is fine, by the way. If you're listening to this and you couldn't hold your nose and vote for Donald Trump, you're no less of a person to me. But however, you would be a little bit less of a person if you voted for Kamala Harris. But something that I think I heard you say recently that kind of resonated with me was just to say that, look, there are issues where both candidates were bad, and you kind of reach a point where you just say, look, there's no amount of gnashing of teeth or wailing that's going to make Donald Trump better on some of the issues he's bad on, and we can't move the needle there. But Kamala's also bad on those issues. But at least there are some issues where Trump is at least open to the concept that maybe there should be a change of perspective. Whereas that the Kamala is going to be terrible on all those issues. The left wing is going to be terrible on all those issues. And so I really just don't see where it's that big of a debate. And I want to address one in particular, because I know it's something that you feel strongly about. And for me, I told people, like, look, I live in the state of Tennessee. I don't need to go vote. Trump's going to win the state of Tennessee. But if I was going to call myself a single issue voter this year, my single issue is Donald Trump said he's going to free Ross Ulbricht.
Yeah.
How do you feel about that?
Oh yeah, I have $1,000 bet going on this that he will.
Oh,
but it's not I'm going to win $1,000. It's that if I win, then my favorite charity gets $1,000, and if I lose, the other person's favorite charity. And it's just some guy from Twitter. Like, I'm not even sure actually how I'm going to track him down because I've already forgotten who he is. But I did send a screenshot of the bet, so that should have his name in it, over to Scott Horton, because my favorite charity. I mean, and I don't mean that like literally. I could never think of a better place to give my money, but in this particular moment, I chose the Libertarian Institute that Scott runs. But yeah, I'm absolutely convinced that it's going to happen. I have heard. Let's just say I have very good reason to believe that it's going to happen, and that makes me very happy. Now, obviously, some of the Trump picks have been out of left field and disappointing. People will say, "Oh, how naive of you to be disappointed. Why didn't you know that?" Don't wag your finger at me. Like I know more about Trump's problems than you do. I guarantee, anybody who's coming at me like that, I know more about this than you do. But it is surprising that you would choose Marco Rubio as Secretary of State, not because he's a neocon, but because he's a dumb neocon. You could have picked a smart neocon for that job. So that part, yeah, it would be shocking if you weren't surprised at that. Why would you pick a dumb neocon when you could pick a smart one? But it does seem to me that the cabinet picks are not made on the basis of a dispassionate examination of the qualification of the candidates alone. There seem to be other factors and wheeling and dealing going on behind the scenes. But there have been some appointments that or I guess they're not appointments, but nominations that I've been reasonably happy with, and they're the familiar ones. I'm happy about Tulsi Gabbard. I like RFK Jr. I like Marty McCary at the FDA. I like Jay Bhattacharya at the NIH. And there are some other people in minor positions. The Assistant Attorney General for Civil Rights is very good. The SEC pick is very good. The SEC pick came it helped to usher in the $100,000 or the $100,000 Bitcoin, let's say, milestone. So that's good. And I like David Sachs as the AI and crypto czar, because he's very sound, and he is on our side on some significant things. Like his positions on Ukraine are indistinguishable from Scott Horton's. And I don't want to speak out of turn, but he's, I feel confident in that guy. So, it's a mixed bag. It got better. The initial names were just horrific, and then it got sort of better as time went on. And then it was good to know that Rand Paul will be chairing the the Homeland Security Committee in the Senate.
Yes. Mm-hmm.
And that is actually more significant than being Senate Majority Leader, because he can actually get things done here. And as if you may recall, there was something called the Disinformation Governance Board that they were going to try to set up that was abortive because of the outcry about it. But, sometimes with the federal government, they say they're not going to do something, and then they do it. So Rand can help to actually get to the bottom of this stuff. And the Homeland Security issues are very important, and he's very knowledgeable about them. So that's a very good thing, too. So there are some people in key positions who are in a unique position to do some good. And that's not to mention, I think there'll be some good coming out of what Vivek and Elon Musk are doing. So, it's about as good as you can expect. This is 2024 America. If you expect more than this, I don't know what country you're living in. The general public does not agree with us. They have made that abundantly clear year after year after year. And they don't have, I'll just be blunt, they don't have the knowledge base to agree with us. That's just a fact. So the fact that we got even this when every one of those would have been a boot on the neck if it had been Kamala. There's no question about it. A boot on the neck in every single one of those positions. we've been emphasizing my age. As I get older, I realize that I need to be satisfied with expectations that are lower.
Well, to run through a couple of the ones on that list that you just named, I know that you're definitely very happy about Jay Bhattacharya, who wrote the foreword to your book, Diary of a Psychosis. And I'll be totally frank, I could not sit here today and tell you exactly what the head of NIH does on a day-to-day basis, other than be a figurehead the next time there's a pandemic.
Oh, he does help. He does help decide where some of that $40+ billion of research grant money goes.
Yes,
that's one thing.
Good. Well,
yeah.
but I agree with something that I think you said recently in speaking with Michael Malice again, in that with absolutely nothing else on that list, it's just one of the biggest, just most cathartic picks of going from a Fauci to a Bhattacharya and knowing all the demonizing. And when you have the whole regime media machine being, with all the knives out for any dissenters, for then one of those key dissenters to then be taking a position of authority some years later. I agree with you in that, I certainly wish there was someone better than Marco Rubio as Secretary of State. However, I think, and I certainly don't want to be accused of being a 4D chess MAGA person here, but I certainly don't think Donald Trump is stupid. And I think Donald Trump knows full well that when he nominates someone like a Jay Bhattacharya, not only is he going to do a good job, but that sends a really strong message in that direction.
Oh, no doubt about it. I mean, Bhattacharya was smeared by one of the previous heads of the NIH for the completely sensible position he took during COVID on lockdowns. And now he's the one in charge. And he was also treated atrociously at his home university, Stanford. Atrociously. And now Stanford, which gets $700 million in federal research grants every year.
Wow.
They better get on their knees and apologize to that guy. Now, I said that on Twitter, and some people have said, "Oh, but Jay is not the petty sort." No, he isn't. But if it were me, now, as my opinions are, I would say, we don't need any of this. The private sector can provide the grant money, whatever. But because I am so reasonable and moderate when I need to be, I am willing as an interim measure, a compromise measure, to say, if an institution ever treats a scholar the way Jay Bhattacharya and Scott Atlas were treated at Stanford, their funding is immediately revoked. You will act like normal people. You will have rational debate. You won't smear people and with 100 people signing a document and then not one of them being willing to debate on that. That's not happening anymore. Okay? If that happens, the money is yanked.
Well, and another thing I did want to address as well, I know because and again, it's very much 6 of one, half dozen of the other. And while there were some appointments that I think are positive, that obviously doesn't completely wipe away, Trump filling his cabinet with more neocons and kind of having the feeling that I think Trump is someone that's very aware of his own legacy. And I think that his general instinct is that war is bad. That's not popular and we should stay out of it. However, we know that when you're at the gears of power in Washington, D.C., he is going to be surrounded by just the most revolting, blood-soaked people 24/7 who are going to be constantly whispering into his ear, we need to bomb this country. We need to bomb that country. Let's send more aid here. Let's send more aid there. But I will say this, and far be it for me to be such a positive person here around Christmas, but while several of the appointments were definitely disappointing, I feel like, because you brought up, someone like Rubio, for instance, not only being a neocon, but being a dumb neocon. They didn't even get a smart one. But I think, and you can tell me if you don't agree with this, but I think, because I'm 39 years old, and so the first election that I was old enough to vote in would have been W. Bush II, Bush Kerry. And I think, I was cognitively aware of some of these terms then, if I dare pat myself on the back. But I think that the general public couldn't have really told you, what is a rhino, because people like us would say that, well, you keep on calling people rhinos, but perhaps the rhinos are people like Ron and Rand Paul, because they're the ones that don't fit in with the rest of this ridiculous party. But I think if there has been at least a slight shift in that 3x5 card, it's that you do see more general public today saying things like, well, Trump wants to do this, and suddenly all of these entrenched incumbent, Republican congressmen come out of the woodwork, gnashing their teeth over some of his picks. Well, we don't want those people in our party anymore. Let's primary them. It should be at least positive that those conversations are being had and people are saying out loud, they're different people who call themselves Republicans are not all one and the same.
Well, that's certainly true. But to my mind, the most significant thing is that so many of the existing so many people within the existing body of Republicans have changed the way they think about the world, or the party has brought in a lot of new people who weren't in it before, who look at the world differently. And I was thinking about this in particular because about a week ago, I came across a clip from Ron Paul in one of the first GOP presidential debates that he was in 2007. And he was being asked about by Chris Wallace, the jerk.
Yes.
Was asking him about the various things that he wanted to abolish. And he was listing them as if it's just obvious that only a crank would want to abolish these wonderful institutions. And then, I heard that maybe you wanted to abolish the FBI. I don't know if you still believe that. So again, to make him seem even more ridiculous. Whereas now there'd be none of that would be considered laughable. Like that would just be mainstream. Yeah, of course we favor that. And so I think that's significant that has happened. That now we have people who could look at a Ron Paul and say, now I get it. Because now I see among the major opinion molders, right of center, I see the word warmonger being thrown around and endless wars being thrown around. These are words and phrases out of the Ron Paul revolution. That's where they came from.
Well, as I sit here and I think about some of the people that I have loathed the most over the last, say, 20 years, the names that pop into my mind are John McCain, Lindsey Graham, Mitch McConnell. I mean, some of the deepest of the deepest pseudo right-wing swamp monsters that exist. But time is undefeated, and whether they're voted out or not, of course, John McCain is no longer with us. God rest his poor soul. But Lindsey Graham, Mitch McConnell, these are people who are going to be exiting public life for better or worse in the relatively near future. And then, on the other hand, you have the Elon Musks of the world. You have Vivek, which I know you've met and you've had Vivek on your show. Vivek was not someone that was in the public eye at all 5 minutes ago. Vivek is relatively new to really putting himself out there and being politically engaged. And while there might be things that I don't agree with Vivek on, he is light years removed from Lindsey Graham and Mitch McConnell. And so I guess the question is, and maybe just musing out loud, are you optimistic that as the Grahams and McConnells exit stage left, will they inevitably be replaced by Mitch McConnell Jr. and Lindsey Graham Jr., or will there be more Viveks in the next decade?
Well, that's just it. I mean, there is still very much an old guard, but it seems tired and demoralized. Mitt Romney retired with almost no fanfare. That was it. He just faded away. Right? Like there was no national day of mourning. We've lost Mitt Romney. So the momentum certainly seems to be on the other side, doesn't it? The momentum seems entirely in one direction. So, and I think also by choosing a relatively young vice presidential candidate, and now a young, soon to be vice president, he's helping to lock in that legacy, because it was always a question after Trump, what happens?
Yes.
Does it go back to McCain, Romney, people like that, Bush, or does it continue in this more eclectic direction and more populist direction? Well, nobody really knew, but now it looks like, I mean, you look at the numbers. I mean, Trump crushed everybody, despite everybody being aware that he had all kinds of negatives that were going to be difficult to overcome. And for the most part, other candidates wanted to echo what he had to say on major things. Now, obviously, somebody like Nikki Haley was different, but she was very self-consciously positioning herself as the anti-Trump and as the neocon candidate. But she got absolutely trounced. So you have to assume that these trends put together ultimately have to mean something.
Well, it's funny that you mentioned that. I remember doing a show all the way back in 20, I guess it would have been around 2018, and I had said whether it's a couple of years from now or whether it's a half a dozen years from now, or as it strangely turned out, a decade later because of the non-consecutive terms, I had just asked out loud what's going to happen next to fill the smoking crater that Donald Trump leaves, it's particularly on the right wing when he leaves office. And frankly, I was never really satisfied with many people's answers. There's the really hardcore sycophantic Trump supporter who said, "Oh, well, it'll be Don Jr. It'll be, it'll be another Trump person year after year after year." And I never really believed that. But since you did bring up JD Vance, I do want to ask a little bit about that. Because you've had JD Vance on the show too.
I have, yes.
Yeah. I don't necessarily think that was necessarily a huge pick out of left field. I think JD Vance is a good choice, and I think he will make a good vice president. But since we know that this is Trump's last 4 years, the $1 million question is going to be: is JD Vance going to be just assumed to be the standard bearer 4 years from now? Yes or no? And either way, is a JD Vance going to be able to take all of this momentum that we're seeing here today and beat whatever? I mean, because it's the Democratic primary 4 years from now is going to look very similar to what recent Republican primaries have looked right. I suspect it's going to be a stage full of people, one being more abhorrent than the next, but then the DNC establishment is going to circle their wagons around one particular choice. I know Brian McClanahan always says that he thinks that Michelle Obama is going to be the Democrat candidate in 2028. Is JD Vance the guy who is going to be able to defeat that, or is it just going to be another pendulum swinging back the other way?
Well, he will certainly have I think he's the presumptive standard bearer. That didn't do a lot for Mike Pence, but that's a unique situation where Pence and Trump were completely at odds with each other, and therefore the Trump support was never really very strong for Pence, had obviously entirely dissipated by the end. But I think it will be his to lose in terms of getting the Republican nomination, unless he is universally acknowledged as having screwed up massively. I don't think that'll happen. And also, when it was belated, but when he did make that appearance on Joe Rogan, very, very close to the election, he came across well. And I'm not, is he a pure libertarian? I mean, I'm not even going to answer that because we're not children here. The issue is, how did he come across to normal people? And he came across like a regular person. He really did. He was able to have a normal conversation, and he has knowledge that spans a lot of different topics. And so he seemed, the Democrats tried to make him out to be some strange character, but that's because they view all of America as strange, because they're the normal ones. They're the standard bearers. So I think, given that I think he connected very well with the audience, I think he would be the presumptive nominee.
Well, one more political question, and we're going to wrap up with a little bit lighter fare here. So obviously, talking about foreign policy, obviously Israel, Gaza, obviously the war in Ukraine, which Trump boasts that he's going to end very, very quickly, and I hope he's right. Obviously there's the recent news out of Syria, but again, whereas a generation ago, any of these topics would have instantly just flipped that switch in the American psyche of, ooh, rah, we gotta support the troops, we gotta back the flag, America has to be the dominant force around the globe. I don't see that anymore. You see it in certain corners. You certainly see it in Washington, D.C. But as much as I have my finger on the pulse, I just don't see that the way it used to be seen. And it makes me wonder, as you had mentioned, that there's still that old guard in Washington. Is that the next great fight? Is this fight was getting the younger, less mainstream, kind of reclaiming some conservative value, pushing back on woke progressivism and all that, all those buzzwords. And I believe that has happened in very significant ways. But is the next great battle the foreign policy battle? Is the next great battle trying to shift the right wing away from being totally in the tank for foreign intervention?
Well, I would say they're not. The Republican Party is partially in the tank, but in terms of the opinion molders who have large audiences, they are skeptical to hostile at this point, which is a big change. However, having observed some of these people for many years, beginning with the Ron Paul years, I remain skeptical that they, when push comes to shove, would remain that way. I wonder, are we just one terrorist attack away from them going back to their bloodthirsty ways and demanding overthrows of 12 regimes? I don't know. It hasn't been proven yet. So we'll have to wait and see. But the trends look good. The key thing on foreign policy, though, would be the subject of Israel.
Yes.
Because that really does drive a lot of foreign policy. And that's not some crazy conspiracy theory. Supporters of Israel themselves would say that the interests of Israel, they believe, align naturally with America's, but that calling attention to the needs of Israel does, in fact, help to shape decisions in the United States, because the United States wants to help its great ally. Like, they're very open about that. There's nothing secret about that. So it will matter where look, there's still a lot of money behind pushing the Israeli cause, but the hearts and minds are starting to wander away. And the younger people on the right are not necessarily buying this, that this is a vital interest of the United States, and that it's not instead just getting the U.S. entangled in wars that have nothing to do with it and spending a whole lot of money that we could put to a lot better use. The younger people are starting to drift away. And as Mike Cernovich said, there were two ways you could have handled that if you thought that the cause of Israel was a valuable and important one. One would be a charm campaign, would be to lay out the case and say, I understand why you might think the following things about the U.S. relationship with Israel, but here are the benefits, and also here are all the pluses of Israel as a country. We could have done that. That's not the tack they took. Instead, it was just to call people anti-Semites and try to ruin their careers. Now that just makes them dig in their heels even further, but that's the strategy they thought was going to work. I'm not sure that's going to work in the long run. I think in 20 years, the landscape on this is going to be quite different, maybe sooner.
Well, okay. On that note, we have just a little bit of time left. We're going to steer this back to a little bit more lighthearted stuff for Christmas. How about a lightning round? Are you up for a lightning round?
Yeah, why not?
All right. I think I've asked you this question in a previous episode, but you'll have to forgive me because old man Mosley is becoming forgetful. What is something we'll say in the last 5 years? What's the biggest thing you've changed your mind on in the last 5 years?
My political expectations.
Expectations.
Yeah. So in other words, I feel like I think I've gone from I need to make maximalist demands, and it's either that or nothing. And then I realized that the result of that is going to be literally nothing, that I'm not going to get anything at all. So if instead, in principle and on an intellectual and philosophical level, I stay committed to everything I believe in, but in the arena of politics, where I of necessity have to somehow deal with hundreds of millions of people, or at least tens of millions, who see the world absolutely differently from me, and over their dead bodies, they're going to give me anything. In that particular sphere, I have to decide what's most important. What do I value the most? And maybe I might get a couple of those things.
Okay. Now, you're a guy that's had a lot of accomplishments. I happen to know because there's a nifty little list on your website of just a short list of your achievements. What accomplishment are you most proud of?
Well, I have to say, now, I could say something very sentimental, which I've sometimes done. And
all right,
say,
yeah. So in the same way that the Bible is the automatic #1 on the New York Times list, okay, you being a father is the automatic #1. So other than that, biggest accomplishment.
Well, I am very proud of that Hayek Lifetime Achievement Award, but partly because I was such a sprightly young man of 47 when I got it. And it was a neat thing to go over to Vienna and be in a room of, a beautiful, beautiful place, the Liechtenstein Palace in Vienna. And I actually met the Crown Prince of Liechtenstein there, but also, just being in this beautiful ballroom with a beautiful dinner with all these Europeans, and to be honored in that way was really quite unforgettable. But that's something that other people did for me. They recognized me. But if you wanted to say, like, what am I most proud of that I myself have done?
Sure.
Because if I just wanted to win that award, there's nothing I could do. I mean, other than try to stuff the ballot box, or I don't know how they even came up with me. But in terms of something I've done, then I would say it's what I've started to do since COVID, which was during COVID, I realized that there are more people in this country who are out of their minds, or at least will lose their minds at the drop of a hat if that's what they are asked to do, than I realized. And so that's when I decided I still want to do the Tom Woods Show and in principle be able to persuade anybody anywhere in the world of anything I want. But I think I need to do a little bit more for people who already get it, but who are living in a hostile culture. I mean, the academics are hostile to them. The entertainment world is hostile to them. Sometimes their bosses are hostile to them, demanding they get injected with things they don't want. I mean, the list goes on. The educators educating their kids are hostile to them. And so I realized that I could just do a podcast over and over where all I do is talk about the non-aggression principle, or I could actually help these people to thrive in a hostile world, to solve all those problems for them. Like they're also finding that their very incomes, their money, the regime is at war with that too. Like, what do you do in these situations? So I have shifted a little bit of my emphasis to the practical. What do we do in these situations? What do we do about our health when the health advice that we get officially is all wrong? You know what I mean? Like, what do we do in this crazy situation? So I launched my School of Life program, and just the other day, I had a guy write and say, this has been a tremendous help to me because with the help of the groups inside this membership, I lost 50 pounds and I went from a 40-inch to a 32-inch waist. I went from pre-diabetic to no risk. My heart is in better shape. And it's because I was surrounded by people who see the world the way I do. They're sympathetic to me. They cheered me on. They kept me accountable. And like that kind of thing. So in health, in business, in all these areas of life, we're getting people in my School of Life saying, I accomplished this, I accomplished that, because I had the help of this community. That to me is something more valuable than just I told them about the history of George Washington. Like I actually made their lives better through this community. So If you want to try it out for $1, you can do that at onebucktrial.com.
Well, you that was going to be 2 questions from now. I was in 2 questions I was going to ask you. I'm sure you've got you're the king of nifty URLs. So I was going to ask you for a couple. But until we get there, this was a question that I asked Scott Horton, and I loved his answer. I had said to him, Scott, let's say we wake up tomorrow and war is a thing of the past. We've met JFK's vision. Mankind has put an end to war, and there will never be an armed conflict ever again. What's next for Scott Horton? And I'll have you know, his answer was, first his answer was, I'm going to close the Institute and go back to driving a cab. And his second answer was that, well, there's plenty of things that piss me off. I'll just start another website. And so I'll ask you a similar question. Let's say you wake up tomorrow and indeed you have managed to persuade anyone anywhere of anything you wanted, and all of your political and social dreams have been realized, and there's really just no point in discussing any of those topics on the Tom Woods Show ever again. If you were going to do a rebrand starting completely over, and it was just going to be some different passion of yours, you want to keep doing the podcast, but it's going to be geared towards just some hobby or passion that you have because you've won the game of politics, what would it be?
It would be on business, no doubt about it, because that's another way to enjoy, in a colloquial sense anyway, to enjoy freedom. Not everybody should be an independent business owner. Not everybody wants to be. Not everybody should be an entrepreneur. But a lot of people want to be, and there's good reason to be, and it's a great lifestyle if you can make it work. And I've learned a lot of things about this over the years, and I have gotten to meet really impressive people, and I've read an awful lot, and I've had a lot of trial and error and ups and downs of my own, such that I think I have something valuable to say. I mean, nearly 2 years ago, I launched not really a high dollar mastermind, because some masterminds cost $250,000 a year. Mine's just $20K a year. But I have wonderful people in that mastermind from whom I have learned a lot and who have gained tremendously from being in that group. And it's great. 3 times a year we meet in some city. We do a lot of fun things together, and then we get down to business and we critique each other's situations with our businesses, and we talk about what can be done to improve them, but you overlooked this, or why don't you consider that, or you need to meet this guy because he's the expert on this, that, and the other thing. And you can really accelerate where you want to go when you sit around with a group of people like that. And I'd love to have more conversations like that. So I'd be happy to make that the focus of my show.
All right, getting back to the URLs, you already gave us one. I'm sure you can give us 1 or 2 more. Where can people go to support you and check out more of your content?
TomWoods.com, because now the new TomWoods.com really does list a whole lot of what I do. And there's a lot on there. I mean, there's my mastermind programs. I also have an online one that's not as expensive, but I have a print newsletter now. I have an author academy to help people write books. I have, of course, a cruise that I do. I have Liberty Classroom. I have the Ron Paul Homeschool Program. And if you join through my link, you get bonuses that you don't get anywhere else. So I got all that stuff, plus just my free ebooks. You never have to buy a book again. Never have to pay for a book again. You can just go to tomsfreebooks.com, and there's at least 13 of them there, and they're all on juicy topics that you need to know more about. So tomwoods.com is the main hub of everything. But in terms of never having to pay for a book again, you can go to tomsfreebooks.com.
What's the next thing that my Facebook friends are going to be wrong about?
Well, the most recent one I put out was your Facebook friends are wrong about gender. So I bought the domain wrong. I beg your pardon?
I just said, ooh, that's a spicy one.
That's a spicy one. So I bought the domain wrongaboutgender.com. So that one's available there. But you can also find that at tomsfreebooks.com. So as of this moment, I feel like I've kind of cut because I have books. Now, they're not all your Facebook friends are wrong about blank. They're not all in that template. But so far, your Facebook friends have been wrong about gender, Ukraine, lockdowns, healthcare, and guns. So, that covers a lot. So we'll see what the future holds.
All right. Well, Tom, it's always a pleasure to have you on the show. This is your second year doing the Christmas show with us, going on 8 years having done episodes with us overall. So I thank you very much for that. But of course, as you full well know, we're going to get you out of here on this one.
No, hold on. Wait a minute. Before you ask, no questions that begin with is okay? So what's your question?
All right. If I were allowed to ask this question, then is a vanilla soy latte a 3-bean soup? This would be one you should ask Jenna. Is a vanilla soy latte a 3-bean soup?
Well, I would come back with this, because I always come back with the common sense response to these. If anybody in a restaurant ordered a 3-bean soup and was given a vanilla soy latte, that person would complain, give the restaurant 1 star, and never come back again. So I think that alone indicates that the answer is no. Now, by the way, we don't debate these questions. You asked me for my answer. I gave it to you. Yeah.
Yeah. All I know. Probably one of my most circulated social media posts I ever did is, I don't know if Tom, if you saw it or not. You
asked Ron Paul.
No, I did ask Ron Paul if a hot dog was a sandwich, but no, I did I took Gene Epstein's template that he has for his Soho forum debates, and I photoshopped it to be you and me, and it was going to be the resolution of a hot dog is a sandwich.
Oh,
and it was going to be you and me in the Soho forum. And people seem to enjoy that very much. Unfortunately, of course, vanilla, soy, and latte are beans. It is a 3-bean soup. But I have to fully admit, although I think you've gotten every question wrong, we still to this day have people dote on your ravioli answer. So,
well, by the way, I think I got the fruitcake one right.
No, that's right. You did get the fruit, because the fruitcake one actually is a legitimate question, and I didn't just make that up. Yeah, you did get that one right.
Yeah,
I stand corrected.
I just wanted the record to show that.
Okay, yeah. Well, not anyone would have actually come prepared with the item on hand to do a live taste test and then give an answer, but Tom Woods did. So.
I did. We had been given a fruitcake by somebody, so.
Tom Woods, thank you so much for being back on the show.
My pleasure. Thank you, Alan.
Guys, we're going to be back to wrap up right after this commercial break. Tonight's show is proudly sponsored by Fox & Sons Coffee. Fans of It's Too Late use code ITL for 18% off orders of $34.99 or more. Shipping is free on orders of $40 or more. You can find them on their website, which is foxandsons.com. That's foxandsons.com. Like our Facebook page. It's facebook.com/Alan Mosley TV. You can follow me on Twitter, twitter.com/Alan Mosley TV. Subscribe to our YouTube page. It's youtube.com/Alan Mosley TV. But if you're more of a listener than a watcher, you get us on your favorite podcasting platform of choice. Thanks to Spotify. It's Too Late with Alan Mosley or Alan Mosley TV.
Oh.
Look at that big old bruise on my arm.
I got one of those last week. No idea where it came from.
Yeah, me neither.
Isn't that weird? It's old man problems.
Yeah. I just saw it in the shower, and it's like, well, there it is.
It's like the same place. Yeah.
Yeah. What? It's kind of big. It's like something.
Yeah.
Something not small.
Brown.
Yeah. What are you gonna do? You know.
What are you gonna do?
Dave, do you have a final thought?
Oh man, the great Tom Woods. It's always awesome to have him on the show.
I know.
It's too bad that his podcast never really took off, but he's a good dude. I like him.
And to spend Christmas with us again this year,
right?
After last year, after the whole fruitcake fiasco.
Yeah. Oh, that was awesome. Yeah.
Yeah. Well, because Tom and I were talking about that last year. We had Scott Horton for Thanksgiving, and then we had Tom Woods over for Christmas, and then again this year we had Scott Horton over for Thanksgiving.
Show's a pretty big deal.
Yeah, it kind of is. Yeah, like
That's Scott Horton. He's on that cable news all the time.
Yeah, and here. So weird.
Was he on Pierce the other day or something?
Yeah.
Wild.
It's yeah. I mean, you know, I've been around the block a few times. I've seen some things. So my name's out there. You know. After party.
Real quick, because I'm thinking my car is going to freeze tonight, so I have to get up early.
Yeah. Plus, my life's just in ruins right now. so I gotta go to bed.
It's a war field, yeah.
Yeah, you just go to bed, and then everything will resolve itself by the morning. You know?
Wouldn't that be cool?
Except for in your case, it's the
Sitcom.
exact opposite. In your case. But yeah. Guys, thank you so much for watching another episode of It's Too Late. And we will see you next week.
Forgot about my safety button. I have a safety button.
Yeah, it doesn't do anything. It just shows you like kittens.
Yeah. Calms me down. Sometimes I need that during the show.
Just banging. You needed to calm down during the intro. Something.
Oh, yeah. I couldn't find the note.
You were literally running around the studio as the timer was counting down. It was kind of scary. I was a little worried.
The note. Yeah. I was too.
Yeah.
I remembered the words.
Yeah, you remember the words you've been saying for like 4 fucking years.
This is messed up. What if I keep doing this?